Today, we're going to watch the video from Michael Saylor breaking down the Bitcoin Treasury playbook. This is very important to understand as business owners because you can instantly make your business more valuable by just having a Bitcoin Treasury, and it doesn't take that much to start creating one. So let's see what he has to say, and I'll comment as I feel like we need.
I think Microsoft's one of the great companies in the world, so they don't really have a need to adopt a new idea. But in essence, Microsoft's strategies are to buy their own stock back and to park short-term cash in treasuries and then to pay out dividends. That's very conventional. That's the finance.
So most businesses don't even do this. What he's saying is Microsoft takes all his excess cash. Let's say he has $500 million sitting in the bank. Instead of getting 0.05% interest in the bank, they put it in treasuries, which will get maybe 4%, 5%, depending on the time, and get 5% on $500 million, right? So most businesses don't even do this. And this is kind of like the main way most businesses used to do this thing.
Playbook that would be taught at Harvard Business School. And if you're a successful company with a great business, you tend to stick with that playbook. The playbook changed, really, it changed a few days ago when fair value accounting became mandatory. When we go into 2025, I think you'll see the repeal of SAB 121.
All right, just that two things that most business owners probably don't know. Fair value accounting, it basically says that as your asset on your balance sheet goes up and down, your you don't need to basically the way they used to do it was you needed to put the amount value when it went down. So like if you bought it for 100,000 and it went down to 75,000, you needed to mark it down 75,000. But if it went up, you didn't need to mark it. So now fair value means you can mark it up and down. Again, I haven't even done this yet, and I have a Bitcoin treasury, so I gotta check. This is the first year where I will have to do taxes on this, but again, I did a lot of cool stuff. Maybe I'll make a video about that as well. And SAB 121, SAB 121 is the government made it so banks can't hold crypto because it's a liability. So if they put that on their balance sheet, it's bad for their balance sheet. So they stayed away from it. SAB 121 eliminated that. So now that means banks most likely are going to start holding cryptocurrency on their balance sheets. What do you think that's going to do for the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum? Not financial advice.
I think you'll see fair value accounting. I think you'll see Bitcoin embraced as a digital commodity by the regulators. We already can see the political winds are very favorably shifted. Now, for the first time in 100 years, large public companies have a capital asset that they can consider in lieu of treasury bills, and that's Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense to consider real estate.
That's why it's called a treasury, right? Basically, the treasury was put into treasury bonds, I think, and that's where now what he's saying is we can move that into Bitcoin, which is a much better version of that. Higher interest or higher gain on average. Again, past performance doesn't prove future, but the idea is now you can create this asset that can grow for you at a much higher rate.
Estate or gold or paintings or barrels of oil as a treasury asset, it does make sense to consider Bitcoin. So really we're year one of a new era. And I would think that the companies that embrace it first are the ones that have a need to know, or they're very close to the Bitcoin industry, the digital assets industry.
So this is where I started my startup 2 years ago to do this, right? I realized you can buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and borrow off of it. So I said, wow, so businesses eventually will just deposit all the cash they're making into their Bitcoin treasury, borrow to pay expenses, and now that business owner has an asset that is the value of the full amount of revenue that business has created. So I have done it already with my company, and my company is way more valuable than it would be if I didn't. And now he's talking about public companies, but I think every company eventually is going to do this. Laundromats, gas stations, agencies, dance studios. Because think about it, most of us business owners, money comes through our hands. We pay expenses. We don't continue to own an asset like that, that is the value of the full amount of revenue that we've generated as business owners. Imagine, think that back. If you're a business owner watching this, think about all the revenue you've created as a business. What if you had a wallet sitting with it with that much Bitcoin in it? How rich would you be? And now that's possible.
The Magnificent Seven, they'll embrace it later because they don't need it now. Yeah, when we announced that, it wasn't clear how enthusiastic the capital markets would be, but we got a very enthusiastic reception. And then after November 5th with the red wave, we saw a big sea change in the political environment. And so we went faster than we had thought we were going to go on a.
Same here. Once I saw that Michael Saylor was doing it for a public company, I started talking to public companies. And I did get a couple to do it actually. And right now I mostly deal with smaller businesses, of course, because it's easier to do something if you're a smaller business. But this is going to be huge. Businesses, countries, you hear strategic reserve, you keep hearing that. This country's creating a strategic reserve. This country, United States now possibly. What does that do for the price of this thing? And as I created in another video, the price doesn't mean every single coin needs to be bought for $1 million for all the coins to be worth $1 million. It just means the last one that was sold for $1 million. So because there's so many people that hold so much of it, like a Michael Saylor, there's only a small amount of them being sold every day. So if all of those are being trying to be bought and sold, that price can be pushed up very quickly, making your Bitcoin portfolio much higher than if you bought real estate per se.
October 30th. Our goal is to is to continue to raise capital primarily through fixed income markets. So we'll pursue preferred stock or convertible bond or.
So this is something that regular businesses probably don't are not they're not able to do this actually. This is public company stuff only, mostly. You can create a convertible note and raise money to do this. I have been thinking about this. I could raise money right now. Let's say I raise $2 million. I could put it in my Bitcoin treasury, borrow to pay expenses. Now we have 2 million more in our treasury that can grow. Let's say it just grows 15% a year. That's $300,000 added to our treasury, just if it's 2 million, not even talking about what we already have. So that's 300,000 added to our treasury every year, making the company more valuable. So these guys get to public companies, they get to go out and sell stock to do this, to issue convertible notes, which means they're giving new stock out for the money, and then they can do even more stuff.
Or other equity linked financings, as long as it's created for our shareholders. When we get through the 21 plan, which is 42 billion in capital, we'll revisit our capital plan, and we'll put in place a new plan subject to market conditions at the time.
See what you just said? He's gonna their plan is to put $42 billion into Bitcoin. That's gonna bring the price up. No way around it, especially because he owns so much of it. So again, he owns a lot of it, so he's not selling it. So when he buys more, he's taking more and more of it off of the market, leaving whatever that difference is in the market for all of us to try to buy and push up the price.
Well, just the equity capital markets were very enthusiastic over the past 4 weeks, and so we're always considering, is it the convertible market? Is it the fixed income market? Is it the equity market we want to go to? And that's going to change from time to time. I expect that mix will shift more heavily toward fixed income markets in Q1 as we go forward, because right now we're probably getting a little bit too delevered, and we'd like to actually get more leverage. We have about $7.2 billion of converts, but 4 billion of them are already essentially equity. They're through the strike price, they're through the call price, and they're trading with a delta approximately 100%. So they're looking.
I'll be honest, I do not fully understand what he means. I think what he means is he sold the shares at a certain price and now they are above that, I guess.
Like equity, and so we would like to go back and build more intelligent leverage for the benefit of our common stock shareholders. When we execute the ATM, We just sell equity into the market if we like the price and we like the terms, and if we think that
So basically, anytime he sees it's a good time to buy, he issues more stocks. So people buy, he takes that money, he buys Bitcoin. So he gives up a percentage of the business. Well, he creates more shares. So he gets diluted as a business owner, as a public owning business, a public business that gets to do this share thing publicly. He can do this on the public market. But what ends up happening is he's raising the value of his business, right? Because he's adding more shares and these people are buying, again, it's just like Bitcoin. They're buying these available shares, pushing up the price of all of his shares.
the equity is undervalued, we don't, but we don't specify any particular buyer. I think that's just pari passu to every other investor in the market. Well, we have a very healthy software division now, and we're very proud of it. And I did create it, but we think of ourselves primarily as a Bitcoin Treasury company now. So our primary method of generating shareholder value is through our Treasury operations, and if you think about, there's three ways to create value for the shareholders. There's operating income, and our software business generates about $75 million a year of operating income. There's also investment income. That's been difficult to track, but right now we have $18.6 billion of unrealized investment income. People will start to get a better handle on that when we switch to fair value accounting next year, and then you'll actually see investment income captured in GAAP accounting. And then the third way to create shareholder value is acquisition income. So when Apple buys back its own stock, or when Oracle does M&A acquisitions, or when you do an LBO, you're basically taking capital, which is cheap, to buy a capital asset, which is a higher return. So
Welcome back to Crypto Insights. In this video, we will bring you the key insights and main observations from the world of cryptocurrencies.
So MicroStrategy is engaged in that capital acquisition process. We issue equity and debt. We buy Bitcoin. That's resulted in about a $14.4 billion benefit if you value the Bitcoin at 105 for our shareholders this year. And so we do all three of those. Obviously, the big numbers, the investment income, the acquisition income are more due to Bitcoin Treasury operations.
So basically, this is what he says. Even a business that does $75 million of revenue, and I hope people are watching that make that kind of revenue, but most of us don't. He makes more from holding Bitcoin than from doing whatever service he does that makes him $75 million a year. We can all do this as business owners. We can all do it. And that's what I built Stack to do, Stackit.ai. If you're interested, there's a link below to get the 3-point Bitcoin Treasury guide for business owners so you can start learning how to do this.